goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, good morning to you. Beautiful, beautiful sunny Monday in Pittsburgh, PA. It's like one beautiful day of sun and then one rain and then one sun and then one rain. And I think that forecast is sort of going to continue for a while, but I'll take it. And hope you guys had a good weekend. And I guess we can just jump right into things. I mean, the big news stories are ones that I don't think you guys are all that hot and bothered to talk about. Do we care enough about Syria? I have to admit, this is a terrible thing to admit. I have to admit that I saw a Sarah Palin quote on it, and I actually laughed and almost agreed with her. Oh, God, what's happening to me? In regard to the fact that we're apparently going to be sending more aid to the rebels in Syria, Sarah Palin was heard to say, let's let Allah figure it out. And I sort of thought, yes, there's no good side there. There's no good side. And I don't know. I thought it was actually one of the first things she said that I've ever sort of laughed at in partial, I guess, agreement, although I noted the sort of snarky religious thing she was up to, but I don't know. We ain't doing much, and if we ain't doing much, why bother? It appears, apparently, that Assad is regaining ascendancy in this now, what is it, close to 2-year battle? It can't possibly be that long, whatever, so many people dead. There's, I don't know what to say. And it's a proxy war in so many ways. I guess we end up getting in simply because Iran and Hezbollah, two entities we sure as heck don't like, are now aiding and abetting very, very, very openly and so is Russia. And it would just seem that, looking at the panoply of folks on that one side with the repugnant and evil Bashar Assad it would seem that, of course, we'd be on the other side. But, I mean, we have been, saying, go, go, go. Here's a little money. I don't know. Totally not into it. And I do think President Obama has exhibited a lack of political leadership on this question. It appears he was like bullied into his current stance of now sending small arms aid, and he looks very weak in it. Take a position and hold it. There's no reason why he couldn't have held the one he had, which is, you know what, staying out of this. His presidency was supposedly all about pulling us out of these Middle Eastern non-winnable wars. Why get into another in any measure? I mean, obviously, my heart goes out to the innocents who are caught in the middle of all of this horror, but all I'm saying is, let Olive figure it out, sort it out, or whatever she said. I mean, in that remark, she's saying a lot. Because it's who the hell. There's not going to be a clean win here. If there is a clean win, it'll be Assad's win, which will be awful. But if it's somehow a rebel win at some point, that's going to just yield horrific sectarian violence. You can imagine. It'll just go on and on and on. And I, for one, I don't know. I start just turning away from some of these stories. I just can't. I can't even get worked up about whatever the hell this turkey thing is. Can't. Am I becoming a real American or what? My son, who is at home, my home now, he doesn't necessarily consider it his home anymore, which is it's really a unbelievable kind of a transition. He's got me watching things I wouldn't normally watch. And he's turned me on to things that I wouldn't, otherwise be turned on to. It's so good to have young people in your life for that reason alone. And one of the people he turned me on to long ago is Louis C.K. Is it Louis C.K.? It is Louis C.K. He's just brilliant. He is just the flat-out most brilliant comic there is. So smart, so right on. And he put in some old concert thing that he had been recorded last night, and there was this bit he did, which was so spot on, and it was about his disgust for his fellow Americans. And it was so spot on. He was talking about us, Americans, as the most repulsive, whiny, ungrateful complainers. And all you had to do was hear the bit to know he was spot on. He talked about overhearing. He was mostly talking about white people. He made clear he was talking about white people. He talks about overhearing people when you're sitting in a coffee shop or riding a bus and what you hear the conversation. And he said, Americans now, the English, our language even sounds whiny. And sort of tired, and it sounds like, and it sounds angry, and we're angry about everything, and the things we're angry about are stupid and they're little. He says, there are countries in which people get up in the morning and they're upset and angry and complaining because their government is like chopping off heads in the town square that day. Or, as in the case of Pakistan, I read in the paper today, they're blowing away these medical workers who go around trying to give children polio vaccine. And he said, we sit here in this country with our bounty and, yes, with our freedom. And we bitch and moan about, I had to sit on the tarmac for 40 minutes. Moaning and groaning how we complain about air travel. I do. How we bitch about that. I do. And he said, because we really don't have anything major to bitch about. Or the major things we may have to bitch about. Those we don't pay attention to. It's all these petty little annoyances. He points out that you're mad at your cell phone all the time. You're mad at your computer. I hate this computer, Jess and I say at least 3 times a week here. And he points out, oh yeah? Well, okay, well then go make your own. This sense that we ourselves can't produce much of anything. And we're given all of these gifts. And if they don't work like that, if there's the slightest delay, I hate this thing. I hate Verizon. I hate Comcast. I hate the airlines. I hate this. And then I've had this thought every once in a while, a fleeting one. Then you put it in perspective of what is going on in the lives of billions of other human beings on this planet. And we appear, in that context, we are beyond spoiled brats. We are loathsome. I have had the same thought he had when I think, it takes an entire day if you're traveling now. I don't care if it's just from Pittsburgh or Chicago. It just takes a day with the delays, with you just assume that, blah, blah, blah. And it has occurred to me that it wasn't all that long ago in human history that to get from here to Chicago took days and days and days. And in certain periods of time, it was dangerous. You might end up dead. Why are we so... We're spoiled. I guess that is it. But it was just so... a good humorist is somebody who hits it on the head. Hello, caller.
Hello, Glenn.
Hi.
Hey, I'll tell you a little story real quick.
Okay.
My son-in-law and daughter were at a gas station pumping gas, and they look over and see a man in a wheelchair, probably in his 70s, going through the garbage can for some McDonald's fries that were in a red container. He pulls them out and eats them.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, my gosh. So I felt pretty good that they went over and gave him money. And the guy was so appreciative of this. But I said to myself, my God, is this what this country's coming to? Somebody in a wheelchair has to go through garbage cans?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, exactly. And that those that have so much, those who don't worry about where their next meal is coming from or if they'll have a bed to sleep in tonight or who have, let's say, health insurance. And yet, do those people, not bitch? Do they thank thank the skies above every day for what they have. No, we just really are. And we are, and as you point out, we're becoming such a country of haves and have-nots. It's disgusting. It is. It starts sounding like the London that Charles Dickens made so famous.
Yes.
Yeah, and that we're real close. And in fact, I have some news stories here that I think underscore that reality. Well, thank you. Thanks for the story. I appreciate it. I don't know. I mean, as Americans, our own Constitution gives us the right to bitch, right? We have the right to peaceably assemble and air our grievances. But it is the nature of those grievances that Louis C.K. was pointing out. He did this great bit about some guy walking up to an ATM machine and then going ballistic because the first question that came up on the screen was English or Spanish. And he goes nuts. What the fuck you have to do? Why does it say Spanish? This is America, goddamn. Just blows way on. And that is the level. We go from zero to like high dudgeon. And that's another thing he pointed out, which is dear to my heart, and you know it. The total misuse of language. How we say things like, oh my God, this is amazing. And, you might be talking about a bowl of noodles in front of you. Well, if that's amazing, then what are you going to say when something truly amazing? It's this deflation of what words mean. Awesome is something that you probably shouldn't utter more than 2-3 times in your lifetime. That something literally leaves you awestruck. That's something awesome. But we devalue that word. I've always talked about it. We devalue the word hero. Oh, my God, everybody's a hero. Everybody's a this. And then we have no words left. They mean nothing. I think this guy is so brilliant, it's beyond belief. Yes, he can be crude, but mostly he's a seer, I think. He's just brilliant. Dexter writes, you know what makes me livid? When people complain about cable TV quality or the cost of it. Who the hell is, I'm adding to his words, who's forcing them to buy the cable TV? Talk about spoiled. Yeah, it's true. Dad, I do that. I'm flipping through there's not a damn thing on here worth watching. And yet I pay every month, I guess, so that I can flip through the channels and bitch. I don't know. We have become a nation of absolute spoiled brat bitchers who have really... Now, as the caller pointed out, there are people in this country who have every reason to feel great fear, great anger, because they are forgotten by their country. They are so much just to be shoved to the side. There are plenty of those folks. They've got standing, if you ask me. More standing. But us, it's unseemly. At the very least, it's unseemly. And if there's some way to catch ourselves, because we all do it, And shows like this are often just bitch sessions, right? That's what's talk radio? Bitch, 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 bitch. Anger, 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 anger. And so I mean, it's even a form of entertainment, but it teaches us that that's what we do. We bitch. We never look at what we have. At what I was thinking, that 1 hour comedy thing had me just I could not stop thinking about the moral of his very funny bits. When I think of all these like Republican guys talking about how this country is heading toward communism, it's fascist. They don't know what the difference is. It's fascist. It's totalitarian. They're looking at us. They're this and that. They're telling us what to do, what to eat, what to baby. Again, those are Americans who apparently haven't gotten out of the country ever. They have not gotten around. They haven't looked. This country remains, I hate to tell you, a country where the citizenry are freer than almost anywhere else. I think it's so funny that this latest hero, there's the term being totally abused, this latest hero, Snowden, who did what he did, right, by his own admission, because he was appalled that a nation, his nation, would be snooping around on their people. And then he takes refuge in a nation that offers its billions of citizens next to none of the freedoms that Mr. Snowden's country allowed him. The freedom to criticize his government, the freedom to voice, to protest, to say vile things and not be imprisoned for them. What kind of craziness is afoot? I think mostly it is. It's a total lack of perspective. Dorothea says, I need to point out to you that Obama's approval ratings are plummeting. Well, yeah. He really does seem disengaged. He really does. Oh, by the way, he's over there in where? Ireland? Where are they doing this thing? The G8. We had the what? We had the G20. Now it's the G8. I guess the 12 countries that don't make it to the G8 are sort of those are second-tier nations. So the biggies are meeting now in the UK somewhere, G8. Or maybe not. Is it Ireland? I don't know where the hell they are. Anyway, because I don't give a damn. Those things are such stupid. But the one thing I noted, and it was just in a headline I saw over the weekend, and it said something to the effect that there were just numbers involved. It was in Northern Ireland there. It said that there were 7,000 police there for the G8, expecting, get this, 2,000 demonstrators. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound... You would think these damn leaders of these countries... See, here I am bitching. You would think that they would see what they cause every place they go. They cause huge outlays of money, which could be used for better purposes, to deploy these menacing police forces to battle a few demonstrators who want to, say, boo on you and I don't like what you're doing here and that and this. And it was pointed out when Pittsburgh was closed down into a city under siege by these 20 when they came here, that this is absurd. First of all of those 20 leaders that came to this country, they didn't see our city. I mean, they saw the buildings, but the people had been dispersed. There was no way to even get here. Everybody ran. There were barricades everywhere. How's that seeing the city? And it was pointed out during the G20 by one of you, why don't they just go to like Camp David or go to some damn military base where it's already a secure facility? And why the hell do they have to spend all this money to come up with what are always worked out in advance kinds of statements that are then, it drives you nuts. So that's my bitch for the day. Yeah, 7,000 police to greet an expected 2,000 protesters. All right, Dorothea says, you got to read this. The most recent poll indicates that for the first time in Obama's presidency, half of the public says they don't believe he's honest and trustworthy. Well, I mean, this is what you get when you run for a second term. This is the second term curse. It happens as night follows day. It's bizarre, isn't it? No sooner is he in than all kinds of would-be scandals. I mean, most they're not scandals. They're pieces of information which have created big hooplas. The IRS, the NSA. What other alphabet soup do we have going? And is the Syria thing. None of these things are, it's just not, he hasn't looked on top of it. He's looked buffeted and he's looked bullied. I thought, so Bill Clinton comes out and says, well, I think he ought to, and bang, he does what Bill Clinton said. I'm sure that's not what did it, but that was the perception of it. He looks weak to me. Oh, well. I believe, looking at the clock, being a good American that I am, I have managed to rant and rave for 20-some minutes without barely catching a breath. The time just flies when you're bitching, I'll tell you. So I'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Need to get some rest. This is the worst headache ever.
Right arm's all tingly all of a sudden. Must have slept on it last night.
I keep losing my balance. These old bones need some exercise.
Granddaddy, what you just said doesn't even make sense. It sounds like gibberish.
Signs like these could be more than what they seem. They could be a sign of stroke.
Sudden weakness or numbness of the face, arm, or leg.
Sudden trouble with vision in one or both eyes.
Sudden trouble walking or difficulty with balance.
Or a sudden intense headache that comes out of nowhere.
If you or someone you know has any of these symptoms, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. You could make a difference in someone's life, someone you love, maybe even your own.
Time lost is brain lost.
Find out more at powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper annual health issue is available now. Pick up one today for information on the Three Rivers Arts Festival and Pride Fest. Plus, Kenny G, the Jerry Garcia Symphonic Celebration, Brandy Carlisle, and the Strawberry Festival at Trax Farm. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right. How about, before we get into any more heavy stuff, an obituary. I read this yesterday, and I guess why I wanted to share it is I just kept shaking my head through this thing, thinking about some people's lives. Wow. And this story, this guy's life, also shows what repressive governments really are, what lack of freedom really means, as opposed to the stuff Americans get all hot and bothered about. When I first saw the name atop this obit, I did a double take because it didn't seem quite right. The name is Paul Soros. And I thought, Soros? And it said philanthropist, entrepreneur. I thought, Paul? Isn't it George? And yeah, it is George Soros, but that's not who's dead. This is his older brother. Who knew? I never heard of him. Paul Soros. But their story, this one family story, shows what some people in their lives live through, as opposed to we Americans. Right? I mean, if you go back to even like Paul Soros's father, he gets born, and then he gets during World War I. He's fighting in World War I, and he gets captured by the Russians, and he gets sent to Siberia, and then he manages to escape, and he ends up in Budapest. Now, so that's the dad. And, I mean, these are lives. So you're a young guy, you go off to war, you end up getting captured, you end up being sent to Siberia, you escape, which, I mean, there's got to be a story in itself. How do you do that? You make your way back, who knows how, you have nothing, no money, and you get to Budapest. Okay. And then he becomes extremely successful. So Paul Soros was born into a wealthy family, as was his younger brother, George. But in 1936, as Hungary began to align itself with the fascist powers that were growing around it, the anti-Semitism came calling with it, and the Soros family, which actually was named the Schwartz family, to be perfectly honest, that was the name, decided to change their name, which seems like a little silly. I'm sorry. If everyone in town knows you're the Schwartzes and all of a sudden you become the Soroses, I don't think that that's going to necessarily keep the SS from your door. And, of course, it did not. But the father managed to forge identity papers and giving him and all the members of his family false names, false identities as Christians, and somehow they managed to survive in Hungary during the war without being captured. And they were thrilled when the Russians, who of course had imprisoned their father, when the Russians came to liberate the city of Budapest and the Nazis were defeated. The Soviets, though, his rescuers, accused Paul Soros, the younger guy, of being an SS officer, a fugitive SS officer. And he was sent on a forced march east. Never a good direction when the Soviets have guns at your back. East. And he figures, oh boy, I'm gonna live the life my dad lived. I'm here I am, taken captive by the Soviets, and I'm going to end up in Siberia. And as the group, and they're marching 4 abreast, is about to head over a small bridge, and where he saw nothing but just expanse of nothingness in front of him, he thought, I gotta try to escape here, because there were like trees and a little village that they had just come through. And he somehow managed to just slip out of line and run for his life. He hid out in a burned out farmhouse. He watched the others marching off to the east. He made his way back to Budapest. And then you get this bizarre stuff. Okay, so here's a guy who already, he's young. He has lived through, he's like in his early 20s. He has lived through this, growing up relatively privileged, and then watching as the fascists come in, and then having to change identities and live in safe houses and underground and living in constant terror. And then he's liberated by the Russians, who then decide he's a fugitive SS guy, and they ship him off, and then he manages to escape, and he ends back in Budapest. And then somehow his story ends up with, he becomes a member of the Hungarian ski team, competes at the 48 Olympics. What? It's better than being in Siberia. Then he leaves home for Austria, where he becomes Austria's number 2 ranked, get this, tennis player. I'm saying, what a life. What kind of a life is this? Then he somehow decides he wants to get the hell out of all these commie countries, and he wants to make his way to New York. And he somehow does in later in 48. He gets here on a student visa, and he is admitted to St. Lawrence University. But in a skiing accident there, he lost a kidney. A buried slalom pole popped up and speared him in the back. That took him out of college. He took some engineering courses. One thing leads to another. He's looking at the cargo ships coming in New York, and he saw that these large cargo ships couldn't get to shallow water piers to load and unload, and he came up with the solution of sort of floating piers that would go out to the ships. He becomes a gazillionaire. This is not his brother. He was not close to George. George, meanwhile, has made his way to London. He ends up at the School of Economics. He makes a fortune himself. God. So anyway, you read about these lives. He, well into his 80s, he was acknowledged by the columnist who covers Bridge, the game, the card game, for the New York Times as one of the greatest rubber bridge players. I mean, you start wondering, is there anything this guy did that he couldn't do well? He and his wife provided grants to immigrants for graduate study. They had an endowment of $75 million that they were handing out to people coming into the country as he had, and helping them be educated here. For 2 decades, he underwrote an outdoor dance party held at Lincoln Center called Midsummer Night's Swing, and he apparently was a heck of a hoofer. So he loses a kidney skiing. Then he lost an eye while taking an indoor golf lesson at a country club. He managed somehow to lose his eye. It doesn't say how. This is a guy who lived a life unbelievable, but he lost a lot too. I mean, he lost a kidney, he lost an eye. But listen to this. This was the thing that really blew me away. Besides his son Peter, he is survived by his wife and another son, Jeffrey. A third son, Stephen, died at 18 months in a playground accident. And a daughter, Linda, died at 18 months after being hit by a car backing out of their garage. So, a life of such triumph and success, and then these personal, unbearable tragedies. 2 children, both 18 months, lost in accidents? I don't know. His quote is, "My story is riches to rags to riches." Again, I was lucky to survive. Yeah. Paul Soros, older brother of the better-known George, dead at 87. What a life. Jeez. But that, again, dovetails with what I was saying. So we wake up in the morning and we're bitching about this and bitching about that and shaking our heads and, oh, we're worried because Obama's approval ratings are down and this is happening here. And then you think of the worries that guy had during his life. Fascists, communists, forced marches. We just gotta learn to have some perspective. But, you know, we do have this entire entertainment culture, which will have none of that because it exists to make us, to agitate us, because there's money in that. Okay, the one story I did see over the weekend which blew me away and upset me terribly, and I don't know what the answer is to it. Can I share it with you? Excuse me. Maybe you heard about this, but I didn't see anything else except this sort of little squib in, I don't know where. This is a woman, and I don't even have her name here. And she has taught, I believe, 2nd or 3rd grade at a Catholic school in San Diego for years and years and years. Have you heard this story? Yeah. I'm blown away by this story. She's lost her job. Nothing she did. Nothing she did. She lost her job, and her 4 children, who were all enrolled in the school, have been told they cannot go there anymore. So the mother and the 4 kids have been shown the door by the school because the school is frightened that her ex-husband, who is now serving a sentence, a jail sentence for domestic abuse and stalking, will come to the school when he gets out and cause mayhem. Now, I have to say this. The school is not like fantasizing about that possibility. I mean, that is a real possibility. Apparently, this guy is one of the classics, right? He ain't going to stop. He's going to get out and he's going to come for her. He's done it in the past. And the school's thinking, we've read these stories. This guy's going to show up with a gun. He's going to go into her, he's going to gun down whoever tries to stop him. Then he's going to go in to her classroom and shoot her in front of the kids. And who knows what else he's going to do. And we can't have it. So initially, they put her on indefinite leave and took her kids out of school. But at least they were paying her. But she's now been told, we just can't do this anymore. You ain't coming back next year. I'm sorry, your job's gone. Now, this brings up so many questions. I understand the school's concern, but somehow there's something so wrong about having a woman who is already a victim, as are her children. They pay the price when they've done nothing. What would you do in a situation like this? What would you do? Now she doesn't even have a job. She's got 4 kids. And she lives with terror every day. I'm just, her name is Carrie Charlesworth. I so feel for her. Holy Trinity School. That's one of those babies with not an easy answer. But this is not satisfying to me. There's something really wrong. And yet, I understand the need to worry and fear that her personal, familial problem, which is a dangerous one, could come calling at the school. What the hell do you do? Obviously what you do is you put the son of a bitch, husband, ex-husband, in jail forever. But we don't. We let these guys out. Or we don't even put them in the first place. Dear Lord. Okay, wait. I got to take a break. How am I doing with my outrage and anger? I'm such a good American. Be back in a minute.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on Jerome Bettis grill vouchers. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Oh boy, is this a day to garden or what? Get out there. Oh, the plants, everything is so lush because of all the rain. But when lush happens, it can also get overgrown. There's stuff to do. Or you see that certain things aren't going to do well. I plant pots a lot, and some of my pots, there's things that have gone belly up. They haven't done what they were expected to do. So I need to get over to the urban gardener and get me some replacement plants. I need to find the things that are going to make my garden more beautiful again. The urban gardener, the place to go. They just have everything you want. Most of the time. 300 species of everything. From shrubs and flowers and veggies and herbs to trees. All of it. 1901 Brighton Road, north side, and right near the Mexican War Streets, if that helps place it for you. I keep telling you, and I mean to continue, to go to their website. There you'll have all the information you need. And what a website. And they are fantastic if you sign up for their emails. Unbelievable amount of information. It's just the greatest place. A small place. Two women own this one. And it's just a work of love. And you feel that there. It's the garden spot on the north side, and I so recommend it to you. When you go, don't forget to drop my name, Lynn Cullen, because they're going to give you a discount. Whoo! I so love that. Go to the website, though, urbangardenerpgh.com.
Hey, Billy, want to go to the state fair?
Yeah!
Well, you can't.
Huh?
Well, you see, Billy, when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have done with it. But now your parents are becoming energy efficient. They could save hundreds of dollars a year and take you to the fair next year.
I want to go now.
Oh, I know you do. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
So it's that time of year when people are graduating, and, you know, every year the New York Times does this. They reprint little excerpts from some of the speeches that have been made at some of the schools by the people who have been asked to deliver the commencement address. And this year, I always look forward to it, and because there's often great stuff, and I looked through it yesterday in the Times and was totally not blown away by much of any of it, except till I got to the very end. And this is the speech given to the graduates at the University of Virginia. And the person who they had chosen to deliver the speech there, a wise choice, by the way, was Stephen Colbert. You know, I don't think I've ever been to any of my graduations. I just don't like them. They're boring, they're long, they're stupid. And if Stephen Colbert were giving the address, I'd go. I'd go in a minute. So here's what he said. I mean, you know, he's not there to be totally funny. He's there to give advice. So here's how he handles this. And I have no idea about the rest of the speech. This is just the little teeny weeny snippet that they put in, a little teeny weeny snippet. On the one hand, in Jefferson's public life as a founding father, as you know, this University of Virginia was founded by Thomas Jefferson, so he's talking about him. In Jefferson's public life, we often see him as the embodiment of the white male patriarchy. But in his private life, he was known for, shall we say, embracing diversity. Very affirmative in his actions there. You, graduates, are his intellectual heirs. In fact, some of you may be his actual heirs. We're still testing the DNA. If you must find your own path, and we have left you no easy one, then decide now to choose the hard path that leads to the life and the world you want. And don't worry if we don't approve of your choices. In our benign self-absorption, I believe we have given you a gift, a particular form of independence, because you do not owe the previous generation anything. Thanks to us, you owe it to the Chinese. Oh, God. Love it. Okay, and here's one that, again, maybe you saw. I don't know. I don't know what you guys read, and I don't know. You know, there's so much information out there all over the place that half the time I think I'm telling you things that you're saying, "Oh God, Lynn, I read that 5 days ago," but I don't know. So I'm just giving you the fruits of my scrounging around through various media. This one did not surprise me all that much. Well, it did maybe a bit. This has to do with the sale of 2 parking spots in Boston. Did you see that one? Now, I have a friend. Oh, good. I've been waiting for this stuff. The Supreme Court's going to be handing down a bunch of huge decisions. Wait, this is not one I was waiting for, but let me just interrupt to bring you the information. The Supreme Court. Come on, guys. I hate this computer. It's so slow. The Supreme Court has tossed out a provision in Arizona's voter registration law that required proof of citizenship. Wow. It's not even 5-4. The 7-2 majority. Wow. I hate this computer. Okay. The 7-2 majority said the state's voter-approved Proposition 200 interfered with federal law designed to make voter registration easier. The state had called the provision a sensible precaution to prevent voter fraud. Does this have a familiar ring to us? Civil rights groups countered that it added an unconstitutional and burdensome layer of paperwork for tens of thousands of citizens, and they prevailed. 7-2. I don't have what they wrote. So that's a good one. That's a good one. I don't know. There's some biggies, and we'll want to keep our eyes on them all. Why can't I get back to my mail? Okay. So, back to Boston, quickly. And by the way, Tom, thank you for sending me that. So, Boston, as you know, is an extraordinarily expensive city to live in. I mean, unbelievable. When people move here from Boston, they might have been living in 1,000-foot little place in Boston, and they can move into an 8-bedroom estate here for the same price. I exaggerate only slightly. But this is a price paid at a recent auction of essentially a slab of asphalt. Enough asphalt to be able to park 2 cars front to back, so that one will always, it's one of those, you see garages in the city like this too. A 2-car garage where the cars are not side by side, but they're back to front, because that's the only way to do it. So it's not the most convenient kind of 2-car situation. And this doesn't even have a roof over it. It's just 2 pieces of asphalt outside of or in between 2 brownstones in an alley. They were being auctioned. Do you know what they went for? A woman paid for this little narrow piece of asphalt over $500,000. $560,000. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that this was in the Back Bay, which is the fancy schmancy area, and it was behind Commonwealth Avenue, a fancy schmancy address. My mother had a dear friend who lived right in this vicinity, and I know I have some sense of what it costs there. But this is unbelievable. It was conducted by the IRS because it had seized the spaces from some guy who owed him $600,000 in back taxes. And the IRS didn't think they were going to get the whole $600,000 auctioning this off, but they came really close, $560,000 is what it went for. The guy who originally had them bought them for $50,000. So more than a tenfold increase. And this brings us to the reality of there's a lot of rich people in this country. There are a ton of rich people in this country. And they get paid an awful lot of attention. The poor, that our caller today pointed out, do not. And the poor keep getting poorer, and the middle folks keep desperately trying not to drop into the being poor. And the stratification in our country is becoming unconscionable. I had told you before about these people going to Disneyland, Disney World, and finding a disabled person that they pay $1,000 a day to join their family group so that because the disabled person's in a wheelchair, they get to jump ahead in line and stuff. That's what rich people do now. And we are losing, and I've bitched about this before. Again, this is good old American bitching. That all of the things that used to be venues where everybody mixed, like at the baseball park. Used to be you went to the baseball park and rich people and not working class people, they sat together and watched the game. Now we have reconstructed, as we know, all of these parks and the football stadiums so that the rich people do not have to, God forbid, sit with the hoi polloi. They sit in boxes high above us, warmed and fed and all of that. So something that used to be a democratic kind of experience has become stratified, as has almost everything else. And I came upon a piece that was in the New York Times about the fact that theme parks, like a Disney World, are starting to cave to this as well. And I mean, you see it everywhere. Some people stand in line at the TSA going on an aircraft, and some people breeze through and then are boarded first and then have plusher seats. And that's if you got the money, everybody else into steerage. Universal Studios, Hollywood, has joined this. And Universal Studios, and now Disney World, I must say, this was something that people were sort of scamming Disney World. But Universal has decided, hey, there are people willing to pay this kind of money. Let's us get the money. And not the disabled person they find in a wheelchair. So Universal has now introduced what they call a VIP ticket. And this costs a lot of money. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But it allows anyone who holds it to have valet parking, breakfast in a luxury lounge, special access to the back lot, unlimited line skipping. So what does this do? A country in which regular people wait in line with their kids, and those little kids wait in line for ridiculous amounts of time, if you ask me. And then other little kids with their parents walk by and go to the very front and are let in. And here's some quotes from some of these rich people. If Universal didn't offer the VIP option, I simply wouldn't go. I just don't have the time to wait in line. And I want a certain level of service. Okay. A number of these kind of people are growing. And they're people that I think we can almost universally agree we loathe. Loathe. analysts, financial, are watching this closely. Quote, here's an analyst. Parks are trying to maximize their revenue in a marketplace that's becoming more and more economically stratified. They don't see this as anything that should be fought. They see this as, hey, we get to make more money. And we get to further this stratification of America. And by the way, I have watched some games in skyboxes. They're not great seats. They're too high. And you're removed from the very atmosphere that gives the experience what it is. So the rich, as they literally wall themselves off, glass themselves off, and they might feel special. But man, are they losing. And man, in so many ways, are they losers. There! Did I end that like a good American or what? Filled with rage. Enjoy this gorgeous day, guys, and try not to feel rage. Just go about, don't worry about those jerk rich. Don't worry about them. Live your wonderful life. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.